The Splinter King is the second book in the God King Chronicles. It's written by Mark Brooks, like the first book, I suppose. Yeah. It was first published in 2021, and as of early 2023, late February, it stands at about 4.21 on Goodreads, so it's doing pretty well there, out of 5. So I decided to read the second book here because I did like the first one for some of its parts. Like, I have grievances with the first one, and I thought the parts I liked were unique enough for me to want to read the sequel and see if it kind of made up for it, or at least made me like the other stories. Mainly, I really like Sana and Damon and their story, so that's kind of where I started. But also because I'm kind of intrigued on how Brooks are gonna weave these almost completely separate stories together. But before we get to that, let's talk about the cover. The cover is beautiful. It is a clearly stylized Japanese, Chinese inspired city, and it directly depicts a scene from the book, and I think that's really neat. I really like that at all. Especially since it fits the book, and also it's just like it's rare for me to see a book where the cover depicts a scene. Usually it's like a character or something like that. So yeah, but the scene they chose, though, I mean, yeah, it's a huge fire and all, but it's kind of boring. Like, in the book, the scene is okay, but the cover makes it look boring. I don't know. I think the main problem is the cover is too muted, because my eyes are really only drawn to the title, and then the next thing is the subtitle, and then this, and then it goes up to the author. And I actually think that's kind of sad, because the artwork in itself looks good. So I would have to say, really, the cover is not very good, but I think it's more of a fault by the overall book designer, and not the cover artist himself or herself. I don't actually know who did the cover. Artwork by Anatol Finstark. Photo by... I don't know also photo development. So the Anatol Finstark, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think it's Finstark's fault. I just think it's the entire layout. So, but yeah, I don't think the cover fits the layout of the book, if that makes sense. Or the layout doesn't fit the book. Alright, first off, the first thing I want to talk about is probably a little meta, but I really like how the book starts out with a resume, the synopsis of the previous book. And especially given it's a while since I read the first book, it helps a lot remembering who is who and what happened. And also, it's roughly a year to 2 years between book releases normally, so it also helps if you read them as they were coming out. Now, let's get to the new story. Something that hasn't changed is anytime we are following someone at Blackkeep, I'm having a blast. I enjoy the characters, and the story is so much fun. If the entire story just revolved around them trying to make it work while having a horrible relationship with their neighbors and trying to figure out what to do with them, it might be one of my all-time favorite books. Yeah, talking of Blackkeep, Sana is being sent off on her mission. In this section here, it only to me seemed like it could be interesting, but I don't really think, the first section here doesn't really sell it to me. And I think it's because Sana really needs a character arc, and that might be what's gonna happen here. So, first section doesn't really sell me on the next section or the next new story thingy, but there are, of course, all the other stories. And to be honest, I don't care too much for them. Like the Tila story is like the first one. It's not a story I find interesting, while the Jaya one got better, but I don't like how she and Bolang went to hierarchy. Well, actually, sorry, I do like that. How Jaya and Bolang went to the hierarchy to get help. It kind of like keeps it up that they're kids trying and are kind of naive. All in all, I think it's an okay opening. It's not my favorite book by any stench, but so far it's not as bad as it could have been, given that I don't like most of the stories in it. Let's start with the Sana story. It gets better. It gets so much better, alright. At first I was, really worried about it, how it wouldn't hold up to how great Sana was in the first book. But it gets better, and I love how it challenges her on her view of who her people is, and what her mom taught her, and what it means to be Tchaikovsky. Like, her entire world and belief is being challenged, and that's so good. And also another improvement is Tila returning to the capital. It's so good. The intrigue there is so good. I feel like Brooks understands way more what he wants to do with her story when she's at the castle. And the intrigue part it's not unique, but given where we're coming from, it's so good. So mediocre intrigue is so much better than what we had. So yeah, can't complain about that. Also, the duel, it's so good. I wanted more of that, but I love how short it was at the same time, because it fits in with the entire, who her champion is. Like, he doesn't follow the old school way of looking at the at duels, but I'm more like, alright, first drawn blood. Well, if I punch your face and you get a bloody nose, I won, right? So I love that. I think it's so good. The rest feels like really distant side stories. I mean, really, the entire book feels that way, and it's kind of the same problem as the first one. I kind of don't like it that much. It feels like the book has an identity crisis, and I don't know, man. I think it's gonna be a tough one, but let's see, because we're only just getting halfway through the book. Maybe the second half is really gonna tie things together. The entire section 3 is just more of section 2. So I wanna really only talk about one thing, because I don't have any particular thoughts about the others other than at best they're serviceable. But I really want to talk about the trial against Elio? Elio, I'm gonna call him Elio. I think it's really good. It's all I want in a small community, huge scandal thing. And especially with the neighbors there too, and it's so good. And the only thing I think is, it's actually too short. I think he should have spent way more time going way more in depth. Maybe have some people, shows up, Lelio always did blah blah blah, and I knew it, or whatever, because some gossip, some people are gonna pretend they knew all along, even though they didn't. I wanted more of that, but on the other hand, I think it was also really good. And what's really important is it didn't overstate welcome, and I think it's better for it to be a little too short, leaving me wanting more, than it being so long I just don't, I get tired of it. So I think it's better that Brooks made it short, but I wanted more. Something I didn't expect to like as much as I do is Damon in Ildramar. I think it's so fun seeing how he reacts to all the things there, but also how much he feels like he's from the middle of nowhere. And I mean, he is, still. Also, the chemistry with Hiran is so cute. The scene where they're studying in the library is just the cutest in the world. They behave like teenagers in love, and I think it really comes off as two persons who never really been in love before, but I think it's so cute, and I think it's the type of representation that we need in literature, because it's just highlighted as being a cute moment and nothing else, and I love it. Also, this entire section and like last quarter of the book or whatever it is really taught me to hate King Nathan. And the ending, I'm not going to spoil it, but the ending with King Nathan does not change my opinion on that. I think Brooks did the right thing, but it does mean I, on a personal level, like it. It's kind of like, oh, you killed someone, it's right for the story, but I hate it, or whatever, you know. And so now I absolutely hate King Nathan, and I'm gonna stick with that. But I won't get into the actual ending of the book, but I'm gonna talk about how I felt without spoiling it. And it didn't really feel like it was the ending of a sequel, but more the ending of book 1 or a chapter in this book. I don't think the ending was bad per se, I just don't think it was the right type of ending for a sequel. To conclude on this review of the sequel to The Black Coast, so this the Splinter King isn't bad. It's as well written as The Black Coast. Brooks really created a compelling world with many different interesting places and characters. But it suffers from the same problem as the first one. And I think because it is the sequel, it probably does a little more. And that is, it's too many storylines that doesn't seem connected to each other. I know Jaya and Gellem, Bolang, I don't remember what he ended up calling himself, story did end up getting connected to the Tila with Damon, and then also Sana. Like, they ended up showing us how they're connected, but not really being connected. But then you have the new guard storyline and the golden storyline. You still have Gellem's talking about how he's the Splinter King. That story just started. It's just, there's still too much. Like, I would have liked for more of them to be a little more concretely connected for us. And so it really feels like a book that struggles to figure out which story it wants to tell. So instead of just telling one story, it's going to tell all of them. Talking of the storylines, I still don't care for most of them. I wouldn't say they're growing on me. And I think that is because the difference in quality between the best and the worst is quite high in my opinion. I think if Jaya's story or Tila's story were the only one, it would be a decent book. Like, it would be serviceable and it would be fine and I would probably enjoy it. But because Sana, Damon and everything at Blackstone Keep is so well written, so interesting, so fun, the overall book suffers. And I think that's really sad to think about, that the best book, I don't know if you can hear that, but oh god, there's a lot of sirens going on here at the end. But yeah, getting back on track. If, like, due to the quality distance between the best and the worst, the overall book just gets dragged down. So, would I recommend this book? Yes, no. If you really like the first book, then yes, absolutely. It has everything that the first book did, and it does everything, like, I suppose in some ways better. But if you were on the fence like I was, then only if you don't know what else to read. Like, if you really don't know what else to pick from your TBR, then yeah, sure, pick it, but otherwise I would recommend any other book. Will I be reading the rest of the story? I will, but not yet. I have so many other books on my TBR I would much rather read. So, yeah, but what do I think of the book and the series? Do I feel the same? I just explained what I felt. What do you feel? What do you think of the book and the series? Do you feel the same as me? Well, let me know in the comments below. Let's get a discussion going on it.